Ambush is a military tactic in which combatants take advantage of concealment and the element of surprise to attack the unsuspecting enemy from concealed positions, according to Wikipedia. Now we both know. In this video, we're going to take a look at the 5 largest ambushes ever. Don't forget to subscribe and press the bell button. Number 5. The Battle of Teutoburg Forest. The year was 9 AD, and Rome was now an empire led by the one and only Emperor Augustus. Just 5 years before, Roman general Tiberius entered Germania. 2 years later, Tiberius had to turn his attention to the revolt in Illyria, so a nobleman and experienced administrative official, Publius Quintilius Varus, was promoted to lead the Roman force in Germania. Varus had 3 legions and 6 cohorts of auxiliary troops. In 9 AD, he was sort of forced, but actually decided to march through a dense and seemingly endless forest when the Germanic tribes decided to ambush him. The battle was fierce, and the Romans fought for their lives, but in the end, the Germanic tribes came out victorious. Roman casualties have been estimated at 15,000 to 20,000 dead. Upon hearing of the defeat, the Emperor Augustus was quoted saying, "Quintilius Varus, give me back my legions." But you already know that story since you watch our videos, right? Number 4. The Battle of Adrianople. The Battle of Adrianople, sometimes known as the Battle of Hadrianopolis, was fought between the Eastern Roman army led by the Eastern Roman Emperor Valens and Gothic rebels led by Fritigern. The battle took place in the vicinity of Adrianople in the Roman province of Thracia, modern Turkey. In AD 376, the Goths asked to be allowed to settle in the Eastern Roman Empire. Hoping that they would become farmers and soldiers, the Emperor Valens allowed them to move to the empire. After some good old Roman dishonesty and arrogance, the Goths rebelled. For 2 years, the Romans and the Goths had a series of battles with no clear victories for either side. On the morning of August 9th, Roman and Gothic forces met once again near the city of Adrianople. The Goths seemed to have no cavalry, so some Roman soldiers decided to begin the battle without orders to do so, believing they would have an easy victory. During the battle, both the Romans and the Goths were dispersed all over the battlefield when the Gothic cavalry decided to show up and hit the Romans from behind. It didn't take long until most of the Roman force was dead, including the emperor. Number 3. The Battle of Okehazama. In June 1560, Imagawa Yoshimoto, with an army of about 25,000 men, set forth on a march to Kyoto. He started taking the fortresses and setting up camps and just generally being annoying. This was all reported to Oda Nobunaga by his scouts, and in response, Nobunaga then led his own forces into position at a temple called Zenjoji. Had Nobunaga decided on a frontal assault, the battle would have most likely been lost, as his army was heavily outnumbered by the Imagawa's forces. Oda left a dummy army at Zenjoji with a large number of banners, to give the impression that this was the location of his main force. Meanwhile, Oda's main force moved through the forest undetected to the rear of the Imagawa army from the north. After a short storm on a very hot day, Oda's men poured into the camp from the north, and the Imagawa warriors lost all discipline and fled from the attackers. This left their commander's tent undefended, and the Oda warriors closed in rapidly. By the time Imagawa realized what was happening, he noticed that he didn't recognize the samurai who were surrounding him. Imagawa's force had been overrun and routed, and Imagawa was killed. Number 2. The Sinai Air Strike. Operation Focus was the opening airstrike by Israel at the start of the Six-Day War in 1967. It is sometimes referred to as the Sinai Air Strike. At 7:45 on June 5, 1967, the Israeli Air Force launched a massive airstrike that destroyed the majority of the Egyptian Air Force on the ground and then proceeded to bomb air bases in those countries. By noon, over 450 enemy aircraft were destroyed and 18 airfields were disabled. The operational success was achieved by concentrating on the initial destruction of the runways with a new kind of weapon, a rocket-assisted anti-runway warhead. Once the runways were disabled, the enemy aircraft had nowhere to take off. All of them were grounded, attacked, and most were destroyed. This resulted in almost a total Israeli air supremacy. This remains one of the most successful air attack campaigns in military history. Does this somehow qualify as an ambush? Are aerial attacks ambushes? Maybe it sort of fits the definition. We decided to include it just because we like planes and find this sort of stuff cool. Number 1. The Battle of Lake Trasimene. The Battle of Lake Trasimene was a major battle in the Second Punic War and the biggest ambush in all of human history. This is the only instance that we know of where an entire army ambushes an entire army. After the Roman defeat at Trebia, the Romans were in the mood for a victory. Hannibal knew that the Romans would be marching next to the Lake Trasimene, so he set up an ambush on the hill on the other side of the road. The Romans hated scouting and thought that it was beneath them. As luck would have it, at the day of the battle, there was a very dense layer of fog surrounding the Romans. The Roman army, led by 2 consuls, one at the front and the other at the back, was passing in a long line next to the lake when it suddenly came to a halt. Most of the soldiers didn't know what was happening and thought that it was only a short delay, without knowing that the front of the line was already engaged in a full-blown battle with Hannibal's troops who were waiting for the Romans on the road. Then the rest of the Carthaginian army came down from the hill and attacked the rest of the Roman line. The Romans were completely unprepared for a battle and didn't stand a chance. The force of 30,000 was defeated in a short matter of time. It took months, if not years, for the Romans to recover from this defeat. If you made it this far, we recommend you take a look at our top 5 military disasters of the ancient era. Like, share, and subscribe. Bye!